I'm just a big idiot. Okay, try that.
Got some 357s. Reloads.
PT37 here. Today I want to talk to you about the Smith & Wesson 686 mountain gun in 357 Magnum. So what is this? This is the new, as of 2025, Lipsey's exclusive 686 mountain gun. What makes it different than the regular 686? Well, we'll start at the barrel and work our way back. So the barrel is a tapered, it doesn't look very tapered, but it's a little bit tapered, and it has a half lug here, whereas a standard 686 has a full lug, as in this Python. It's real similar barrel profile to this Python. So that's to save some weight. It has a gold bead front sight here, which a lot of people really like. So the barrel's slimmer. This one is a 7-shot, so it is a plus model. And one other key difference between this and the standard 686, as of now, I could see them integrating this into the regular 686s soon, but this is the first model they're introducing it on. This has a detent lockup with the crane area here. So as you can tell, that has a detent on it, and it locks up when you shut it. It locks up right there in that area. So that is unusual for Smith & Wessons. Ruger's have been doing that for years, and the new model 66s and 69s have that same lockup. It makes it a little bit stronger. So the old Smith & Wessons, or a lot of the new ones still, they do not have that right there. So see, that's just, there's no detent there, but there is a little detent at the end of the ejection rod here. So that is how these ones lock up. One negative to that design is that if your ejector rod backs out, which is prone to doing, it can unscrew just a little bit and make it hard to open the cylinder. Not a huge deal, but it can be a little bit annoying. So this is just a little bit better design in my opinion. I'm glad Smith & Wesson is finally integrating that. And because of that, this 686 is a -7 model. So the standard 686 as of this time of this video is still a -6 designation. So my guess is that the -7s, if they integrate them into the other ones, which I think they will in the next year or two, I think they're going to start including that on all of them, and the no lock. So if you're unfamiliar, every dash change with Smith & Wessons indicates some design change. Now moving on back, the trigger and the hammer are chrome flashed, I think is what they called it. They're just stainless looking, whereas the typical Smith & Wessons nowadays have the color case hardened trigger and hammer. I don't think they're actually color case hardened, they're just made to look like it, and it's pretty. I like that all right, but I prefer just the stainless look better. I think it just matches the gun a little bit better. And another unique feature on this gun is that it is a round butt, which is typical, but these grips, so these are from Tyler Gun Works. They're called the Bear Hug grips, and they are very, very nice. They're some of the most comfortable wood grips I've ever used on a revolver. I love them. They're beautiful. And you can actually buy them, just the grips, and put on your existing 686 if you got one. However, they are about $250 if they're in stock. So that is a that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. I wasn't particularly wanting this. I mean, I wanted it, but it wasn't super high up on my list. However, I got the 629 mountain gun. Hopefully you've seen the review on this thing I posted a month or two ago. But I got this, and I thought, man, that would just be pretty cool to have a matching pair in different calibers. And also, at this point in my life, I am absent of a 686. And 686s are great guns. I had a 4-inch. I did some videos on it several years ago, and I ended up getting rid of that thing. And I kicked myself for doing it because it was a great gun. And this one is a great successor to that because this is fantastic. On that note, it did not start out fantastic. I want to talk about some issues I had. Messed it up. Oh, had a dud. Light strike. Nobody else is out here to range, so light strike right there. Interesting. Let's try it again. Try double action. See if we can get that light strike again. Oh, nope, that last one was a light strike too. I thought I was out, but... So I did a video talking about Smith & Wesson light primer strikes. If you're having issues with light primer strikes, click my channel and go watch that video. I talk about how I had light primer strikes with this and how I solved it. But I'll talk about it some here too. Got the 629, it was great. Had a couple light primer strikes with it. I put an extended firing pin in it, fixed the issue. But this one, I only had a couple with this, so it didn't seem like it was an actual issue. It just seemed like, 1 out of 100 rounds I had a light primer strike. So I didn't really think too much about it. But this one, however, I couldn't get through a cylinder without a light primer strike. So historically, light primer strikes come from double action. So when you pull double action, the hammer, you see how far it goes back? It doesn't go back very far as opposed to cocking it. So cocking it, it comes all the way back. So when you go single action, it's got a lot more like oomph to set off that primer. However, on this thing, I was getting light primer strikes in single action, which I've never had happen. Any gun I've ever had that had a light primer strike, it was always double action. If I had an issue with it, I would just shoot single action, problem solved until I could fix something on it. But I've had Smith & Wessons come out of the box. There's a little strain screw under these grips that put tension on a leaf spring under the grips. It puts tension on the spring that in turn makes the hammer fall a little bit harder. So it makes your trigger pull a little bit stiffer in the process, but it makes it more reliable, and it's supposed to be screwed all the way in. You can back it off a little bit for a little bit better trigger pull, but you lose reliability sometimes. So I've had Smith & Wessons come out of the box with that screw a little loose. Okay, I didn't think it was a big deal. However, I took off the grips and that screw was already tight as it could go. That is an issue because normally it's a quick fix. You just tighten up that screw and it's fine. So then I got an extended firing pin thinking, okay, well, maybe just an extended firing pin will fix it. So I got a Power Custom extended firing pin, put in here, same issue. It did not make it any better at all. I'm like, okay, that sucks. So I don't know what to do now. And after doing some research, I found, I think it was TK Custom Guns, I want to say. Wolf makes some too. So they make an extended strain screw. Wolf makes one that's just extended, so it's a little bit longer. However, the TK Custom one I found, I believe that's where it was from. Don't quote me on that. But it was just a little Allen screw. It was a set screw is what it's called. It has no head on it, so it is just a threads. I would take this apart and show you, but I don't really want to do all that. But anyway, it's just a little screw, has no head on it. So instead of having to be longer, you can just screw it deeper because it doesn't have a head to rest on the shoulder there inside that area. So that was like 12 bucks. Well, I got to thinking my local hardware store probably has that. So I just took the screw out of this, took it to my local hardware store, asked the guy at the screw counter to help me out, and he found exactly what I needed. I screwed it in there almost as far as it'll go, given that spring, and put a little Loctite on it. Haven't had an issue since. I've shot at least 100 rounds out of it, I think, since I did that, and I have not had another light primer strike issue. So now that that's solved, it's great. I'll check the trigger with my trigger gauge. Now, like I said, the trigger came a lot better out of the factory, a lot lighter, but it was not reliable. So now it's reliable. Let's check, see what the weight is. 11 pounds, 13 ounces. 10 pounds, 11 ounces. Let's do one more. 10 pounds, 14 ounces. So, high 10. ish pound range, so it's still not bad. Let's do the single action. It's actually not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. Oh, 2 pounds, 2 ounces. Dang. I didn't think the single action felt bad at all, but the double action feels heavy. 2 pounds, 2.9, the exact same. So, okay, so I got a 2 pound single action, which is fantastic. And in the double action, like I said, it feels a little heavy, but it's not bad by no means. I can still shoot it fairly well. Talking about that, let's go into accuracy. Single action group, 5 yard standing offhand. 25 yard group, 158 magnums. Getting 1350-ish feet per second out of them. And my windage was way off. I was aiming here, but I got 3 right here too, same load. It shot exceptionally well. I measured that group and it measured approximately 1.157 inches. That is very, very good in my book. If a gun can shoot sub 2 inches, I think that's acceptable. If it can shoot sub 1.5 inches, I think it's exceptional. So in my book, this is exceptional accuracy, especially from a 4-inch 357. I mean, that's crazy. That's a 25 yards. And that's with magnums. That's not even with specials. That was with a 158 grain XTP Magnum going, it was 1340-ish feet per second out of this gun. So that's another thing I want to talk about. Not only did it shoot very well, exceptionally well, that's probably the best group I've shot with a Smith & Wesson revolver. And so not only did it shoot exceptionally well, but I have a 6-inch GP100 I took out of the range with me too. And that same load shot about 1350 out of that gun. That's a 6-inch. 357 is notorious for gaining a substantial amount of velocity between a 4 and a 6-inch. Wow, 1308. 1367. Wow. That's faster than I get out of my 6-inch. 1369. Holy crap. Wow. Wow. So, I don't know what it is about this gun, or if it's just a fast gun, or if it's got a really tight cylinder gap. I mean, it does have a really tight cylinder gap. I mean, I can't even see. So anyway, but I was getting virtually the same velocity out of this 4-inch. So I was absolutely floored. Out of my Python with that load, I was getting like 1200. So 1200, 1220, something like that. But out of this, I was getting 1340, somewhere around there. I just could not believe the numbers I was getting out of this 4-inch. I've never had a 4-inch shoot that fast. So I don't know if it's just this specific gun or if you can expect the same results. I mean, this sample size of 1. So who knows? I could take 5 of these. One might shoot like my Python, which is typical. That's what I expect out of a 4-inch. Or it can be fast like this one. So just take that for what it's worth. I was very impressed with those numbers, but don't necessarily just buy one expecting it to do the same. So let's talk competitive options. Why do I have all these other guns out here? So that's what I'm here to talk about now, is competitive options. And I'm going to bring in the scale that doesn't lie. So this is just like my $10 kitchen scale. So anyway, let's weigh this and see how much it weighs. So it weighs 2 pounds, 3 ounces, 35 ounces. So it's a 35-ounce gun. Now, let's weigh the K-frame, because the K-frame is notorious for being a small, handy, lightweight 357 Magnum. Something that you can carry. 2 pounds, 3 ounces, the exact same weight. So now let's weigh the Python. So it's a little bit heavier gun, designed more for handling recoil. And this is, I brought this out because I don't have a regular 686 with the full underlug. However, this should be very comparable as far as weight and profile goes. So that is 2 pounds, 8 ounces. So that weighs 5 more ounces. then so this is like a 40-ounce gun. Okay, so 5 more ounces. Now, I think it's hard to talk about the 686 mountain gun without at least mentioning the 629 mount gun. That's why I brought it out. So let's weigh it, see what it weighs. It's 2 pounds 7 ounces. So it is 4 more ounces than the 686 or the K-frame. So why are those numbers important? Well, I think they're important because in my mind, I have no reason to carry this now. I can't think of a reason to carry this over the L-frame. This compared to a standard full look 686, yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit slimmer. It still has 6 rounds. It weighs a good little bit less enough that you're going to notice it. Is a handier gun. However, the 686 mountain gun addresses all of those concerns. It weighs the same. It has 1 more round. It's tougher. Now, if you have a new 66, they're supposed to be tougher, as tough as the 686, so that's not much of an argument with the new 66s, but like the old K-frames are, everybody says to practice with 38s, carry 357s. They say don't shoot 357s out of them all the time because they're not, this was a 38 special gun that they made shoot 357. So it was always viewed as a 38 special with 357 capability, not a 357 with 38 capability, if that makes sense. So why that is because this forcing cone area right up here, so if you can tell, the bottom part of this forcing cone is flat. So they relieved that so the cylinder would fit correctly and not have any issues. So it would clear that. So they relieved that, and it was never an issue with 38 specials. However, when they chambered these in 357, I don't know, the 50s or something like that, or 60s, whenever it was, they started having cracked forcing cones. So what would happen is the pressure was so much greater with 357, the bottom part of this would crack, and it would essentially ruin your barrel, and you'd have to get a new barrel put on it. So that is an issue. However, on the 686s, they addressed that issue, and the new model 66s, might I add. But look at that forcing cone compared to the 66. There's no weak spot on that. Perfect, thick, cylinder-shaped forcing cone. No flat spots, no nothing. This can handle 357 Magnums all day long. There is a little bit of a dimension difference as far as the cylinder width. I will measure that right quick. 686 cylinder is 1.566 inches, essentially. 1.566. And this is 1.451. So is that a big, on a concealed carry pistol, that might be a big deal to you. But on something like these, more of a duty, or, well, not that anybody carries one for duty anymore, but for more, you know what I mean, more of a outside the waistband, or like a hunting sidearm, I don't think it's going to matter. It's not, nobody's going to notice that difference. Like, this was the duty gun of old. This was the gun to have if you was a cop in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even some maybe still out there. I don't know. But if this gun would have been out when this gun was in its heyday, this gun would have been discontinued. I have almost zero doubt. Nobody would have carried this gun. I don't, like, you get an extra round with this. It weighs the same, and it can handle 357 Magnum all day long, in and out. You can choose as much 357 as you want out of this thing. It's going to handle it. Whereas this thing, like I said, it'll handle 357 in small quantities. I've read several articles about if the forcing cone is an issue on these or not, and it pretty much what I've gathered is it's not if it'll crack, it's when. So that being said, I don't shoot 357s out of these K-frames very often. I do occasionally, but they're not the full power loads I shot out of this thing. They're reduced loads. I mean, I'm sure it would handle a little bit more than a lot of people say, but I just don't want to beat them up. Why beat it up when I have a 686 I can beat up? or a Python. Okay, so comparing that to the K-frame, so let's compare it to a Python, or you can substitute a regular 686 in place of this Python. So why might you want the mountain gun over this? Weight savings, like I said, a little bit handier package, but I will say that package comes at a cost, in the sense that recoil characteristics between these two guns is totally different. So this shooting 357 Magnums is actually pleasant. Like I could shoot 357 Magnums out of it. My hand would feel fine.
I don't know anybody. I don't know how you could shoot a gun like this and not be smiling. Like it's so fun.
Whereas this, I shoot a cylinder of 357s out of this, and I'm like, ouch, that was a little stout. So it is not near as pleasurable out of this. It'll handle it. The gun will handle it, no problem. But you're going to be feeling it much more than if you shoot the same load out of this gun. 3 Magnums and 4 Specials. Start with the Specials. So you just got to ask yourself the question, what is more important to you? Are you going to be carrying the gun a lot, shooting it a little? Or are you just a glutton for punishment? 686 mountain gun might be your option. Or is it going to be more of a recreational gun that you might carry occasionally, but shoot a lot? You might want to consider more like a Python GP100 686 with the full underload. So it's just a question you have to ask yourself. All right, so why do I bring the 629 mountain gun into this equation? Well, I'm talking about competitive options for a lot of reasons. Between these two guns, there is not much of a weight difference. I think I said this weighs 5 more ounces, but it still weighs less than this. I think it makes a lot of sense to go with this because it still weighs less than a typical 357 Magnum. Well, you have 44 Magnum capability. Now, you pay for that in the recoil department. I don't think this kicks as bad as most people think it would. I reload for this, and I can load a 240 or 260 grain going 1,000 or 1,100 feet per second easily out of this thing. And that's a mild 44 Magnum load. But a mild 44 Magnum load still has more juice than a top tier 357 load. If you're just buying factory ammo, it's hard to find a good mild 44 Magnum load. Buffalo bore makes some good, really hot 44 special loads, and that's essentially what my mild Magnums are. They're just a mild or a really hot 44 special. But out of this gun, they kick just as much, if not less, than a full tilt 357 out of this gun. But I have more capability. So that's what I like about it, is that 44 Magnum weighs less than a typical full underlug 357, GP100, Python, 686, but I get 44 Magnum capability. Now, however, if you're wanting the lightest possible package with the most firepower, 686 mountain gun makes a lot of sense. So I guess you just have to ask yourself, what is important to you? Do you want the lightest package with the best capability? Or do you want more capability and a slightly heavier package? So I'm going to do a whole video comparing these two, but I just thought I would briefly mention that. Would I buy it? Absolutely. So if you watched my 629 video, I talked about an asterisk. When I talked about if I would buy it, I would apply that same asterisk to this because of the issues I experienced that I talked about earlier. I had a slight issue with that, light primer strikes, but it was easily fixed. And I had the same issue with this, except it was worse, much worse. And it was a little bit more pain in the butt to fix, but once I got it fixed, now it's great. It shoots exceptionally well. I get good velocity out of it. It's lightweight. It has 7 rounds. It is stronger than a typical 686, objectively speaking, because of that lockup. And as far as the price goes, if you can get a regular 686 for like $600 or $700, I'd say go ahead and buy it. This is more like 1,100-ish. So I guess it just depends on if it's worth the extra to you. It is to me, because I like the weight savings of it, and I like these grips. If you're on the fence about it, just buy it. You won't regret it. And if this is anything like the other mountain gun series of old, it's not going to go down any value. If anything, it's going to go up in value. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. I read all the comments. I appreciate all the likes. They mean a lot to me. And going to be making more videos like this, so just keep an eye out for those. And thanks for watching.